The purpose of the deity is to really get you online with this idea that there is something else that isn't you. Now it seems obvious, but it's the one thing you cannot understand. You really cannot get it, that other is other. Other is not this. You all understand it, right? No. Yep. Yeah, he's definitely not me, but he should be. I mean, that's the part where you don't say, right? He should be. He should see it my way. He should feel what I feel. He should know what I want, or he or she, right? They should understand that I'm being English, and then be English, or they should understand that I'm American, and they should be American, right? And this is unreal. And it doesn't do you any good, because of course if they just became what you wanted them to become all the time, you wouldn't have anything to do with them. And the reason you wouldn't have anything to do with them is because there wouldn't be reaffirming and reconfirming you. They'd already be you. And so you'd have to go to the person who wasn't really you to get them to be you, to make you feel confident about you. Are you with me on this? So that's why you don't end up having affairs or relationships with people who are actually too much like you, right? Because you've already won them. You've already won that fight. You need somebody who's just different enough from you, right, to tell you you're right and they're wrong, in order for you to feel more confident about you. Okay, now if you understand this, right, you will never, ever, 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 ever feel confident about you, really confident about you, until you really celebrate the other. Mudita. Wow. Wild thing. You make my heart sing. Help? You make everything. No. Now here's how it really goes. Wild thing. You make me nervous. What's the next line?
You make everything.
You make everything irritating, scary, dangerous, uncomfortable. So please, wild thing, be like me. And then, of course, what do you have? A tamed thing. So imagine the song now. Tame thing. Now the deity's job is to quieten you, right? It's to peacefullize you in terms of the neocortex, thinking mind. It's to give you an emotional connection, to calm your emotional being in terms of its objects. And then you have 58 wrathful and 42 peaceful. And the reason there are more wrathful than peaceful is because the nature of a blind spot is that it's blind and it takes more energy to get through the blind spot. I don't want to use the golf metaphor. But when you're on a golf course, you have different shots. You know, you got sand shots and fairway shots, and you got shots from the trees and shots from the bottom of the lake. That's a hard shot. Right? And you have different clubs for the different shots, and there's slightly differences in your technique. Different mantras, different visualizations for different situations. I need my discriminating mind on here. I need my supportive, protective mind on here. I need my energetic mind on here. I need my compassionate mind on here. So on. I need to support the unfoldment in the post office worker, right? I need to be able to talk to the drugstore owner in a language that they understand, right? That's white Tara. And green Tara, you need to protect people and give people the feeling that they can do it, that you can get through this, that you can meet this problem. Protection aspect. And then you sometimes need to kick her in the butters. Peaceful ones are easy, they're great, they're lovely, but they don't do much. You know, you just kind of, ooh, cool. That's fine, that's nice. If you can live there with clarity, you're done. But if you have any holes in the mandala, then those wrathful deities are the only way to figure out where the blind spot is. It's like, come on, enough of the victim shit, let's get on with it. Okay, yes, we understand it, poor you, fine, get on with it. Right? And that's the wrathful aspect. And then, of course, the other aspect is to bring out a person's strengths and talents. In the process of allowing a deity like Vajrayogini to become real to you, I mean real, not just a kind of imagination exercise. In the process of allowing Vajrayogini or Kalachakra or Vajrasattva to become real to you, right, is the degree with which you're solving the intra and intercommunication problem. So if you can't make it real, how can you make her real? How can the other person be real to you if the deity is not real to you? Because remember, Dewa means to, it's from the root Dev, which means to shine. So all you're doing is creating a shining being. And it's illusory, it's imaginary, it's created by the mind, it's established by the mind to give you the sense that you have then something that's like a cloud or a veil that you can go through into the Dharmakaya mind. Fair enough? Now, if you can do that with the deity into the Dharmakaya mind, you should be able to go the other way. You should be able to go from the Dharmakaya mind to the deity mind and get back to you as equally illusory, insubstantial, and created as the deity was. That's the purpose of Tantra. You're as real. People ask me, how real is the deity? I say the deity is as real as you are. So if you think you're really, 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 really real, then the deity probably is really, 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 really unreal. If you start to see you as slightly unreal, then the deity is going to become more real. Not proportional, inversely proportional. Vajra hook knife, cutting off the head of clinging, right? It's just sever the head of attachment. Now the knife is basically a bit like an Eskimo ulu. And an ulu is just a curved blade, and the women use it for cleaning pelts. And the knife is curved so you don't cut the skin, right? So we use a curved knife here so we can pull off the fat of your unconscious and leave your skin intact. Then you have the skull cup, and it's filled with rakta. Rakta means blood, but it also means nectar. So the nectar of the body is the blood, right? No blood, and you're even more dried out than you are if you're born English. So you recognize that when you're living this life, you're living it on the bones of your ancestors. You're living on the work and the efforts of everybody who's gone before you. Your language skills, the things you know, your education you take for granted. You have an incredible storehouse of knowledge underneath you based on millions and millions and millions of people struggling and working and learning how to bake bread, for one, or rice cakes, if you don't eat bread. So although she has no consort in this manifestation, the Katanga represents the consort. And of course the three heads on the consort are greed, hatred, and delusion. So what does that say about your relationships with the opposite gender? They're fraught with, they are suffering by definition. Yeah. As Sartre said, hell is other people. But when you think hell is other people, you should think in two contexts. Hell is other people because if other people are in bad states, it's hell for you. But hell is also other people in the sense that if you're not in rapport, it's a kind of hell state, isn't it? And so when you're with alone, you don't have to think about it much, you're just alone. But when someone else is in the room, you're either in rapport or you're in some kind of discombobulation because of your mirror neurons and your spindle cells. You're meant to be in harmony. You're meant to be in union. And this is gender free, right? You shouldn't have any problems doing a female deity if you're a male, and you shouldn't have any problems doing a male deity if you're female, and you shouldn't have any troubles visualizing yourself as either one of them, right, in either position, gender-wise, etc., etc. It shouldn't really be an issue. So if you're going to get to the point where you integrate all of these things, you're also going to have to integrate your inner male and your outer male and your inner female and your outer female. And these things are going to have to come together. And your relationships with the opposite gender are always going to be fraught with difficulty if you haven't integrated those inner and outer male qualities in yourself if you're female, and vice versa if you're male. The hermits of the past went into retreat not to get away from people. They were already, I mean, their lifestyle, they spent a lot of time alone. They're sitting there on the mountain watching sheep. They went into retreat to get closer to people. They went into retreat in order to bridge the divide between self and other, right? And now the easiest way for you to do that is the deities, because they're not real. They don't talk back to you, do they? They don't say, "What are you being a bitch about today?" or "a bastard." They just sit there, right? They smile at you, you know, nice, peaceful deities, right? Or they get, you know, kind of gangsta. They get the down on you deities, right? I guess the rap, you know, they hit you on the head. The wrathful, right? And so you get, okay, well, you know, so where is your paralysis? Where is your shut-off point? Where do you back up? Where do you close the doors? Where do you hide? Where do you run away? Where do you get really pugnacious? Private fight, or can anybody join in? It's an identity the Irish might want to drop. My way or the highway. There's an American identity they might want to drop. Don't disturb me, please. An identity you might want to drop. If you want to be in communion with anything. But that means you have to come to terms with this, existential dilemma, which is you have to recognize you're born alone, you live alone, you die alone. And so now you have to come to terms with the fact that in this moment of aloneness, in this moment of complete and total isolation inside this fathom-long body, right, everything's okay. And now if this is okay, right, then whenever I talk to Michelle, I watch the mandalas come up. Oh, she was raised in a country where you never said what you felt, and you know, you didn't cause any waves, and you know, blah, 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 blah. And then you're a girl and you're raised on a farm, so it was more alone, introverted sensing. And you can do the anagram here, and you can do astrology here, and you can do the Jungian functions here, and the tarot cards here, and you know, crystal gazing. You can do whatever you want here, but fundamentally what you're doing is what's her story? And in order to hear her story, in order to be able to dialogue with her, you have to know her story. It's not you're telling her your story. That's her job. Her job is to figure out my story. My job is to figure out her story. And I can't do that if it's all about me and how I'm feeling, you know what I'm saying? And so the deities, this is really a long-winded way of selling to you. Special deal 3 for right? The deities are to get you used to the idea that other is something precious, not something dangerous. And from the point of view of the ego, other is always dangerous.
Gate, gate.